Should I buy new construction or should I buy resale? Well, there's a lot of pros and cons to both, things that may or may not fit what you're looking for. So in this video, we're going to cover everything to make that decision process a lot easier. So stick around to get all the details. See you on the other side. What's going on, guys? So like I mentioned in this video, I have a lot of clients who are always asking me, should I buy brand new construction or should I buy resale? And there's a lot of pros and cons and a lot to unpack when making that decision. So in this video, we're going to cover all the pros and cons so that you can truly understand what best suits your needs. But before we jump into that, if this is your first time here, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Patrick Longley. I'm a licensed agent out here in Hawaii and have been for nearly a decade helping buyers, sellers, and real estate investors with their real estate needs. So if you have any questions about real estate, new construction, resale, anything of that nature, feel free to reach out to me. Got my contact information right here. You can directly DM me on any of my social media platforms, or what I find to be the best is book a call down below. We have a link in the description where you can book a call with me or one of my teammates where we can really unpack your wants and needs and see if buying a home is a good option for you. So with that being said, let's jump in the difference between new construction and resale. So let's break this down into a pros cons kind of format. So let's start with new construction. What are some of the pros? Well, number one is everything is brand new. So you're gonna have a new roof, new foundation, new walls, new windows, new AC unit. So you basically don't have to worry about any kind of maintenance that needs to be done immediately, and or renovations for that matter. Now that one's pretty obvious, but the second one, which is also really important, is with new construction, generally they're going to give you a 1-year builder's warranty. So you move in that brand new home, everything looks fine, and maybe a plug stops working, or the garage door is not closing like it used to before. Well, you actually have a hotline that you can call, and as long as it's within 1 year, generally they're going to come out there and solve it, usually within a couple days, and it shouldn't be any money out of your pocket. Now that's not the case with resale, but we'll jump into that later. The third benefit is builder incentives. So builders or developers are building all these new homes to help supply the local economy with more homes. And sometimes they can't sell them as fast as they want to, which is what we're seeing currently in the market. So there's a lot of builder incentives. What do I mean by that? That could be in the format of seller credit. I've seen anywhere between $5,000 and $25,000 plus that can be given to the seller just for buying that home, which can be used towards closing costs, which if you're a VA, it could be 0 down payment and also 0 closing costs. So essentially you're getting a home for free. So that's a huge benefit when it comes to new construction. Additionally, what we've seen a lot is, especially with VA and conventional financing, with these new developments, they sometimes offer lower rates than you can find anywhere across the island or literally anywhere in the nation, because they buy up a bunch of loans at a lower rate and then they can sell them to you. So for example, I've seen just recently, they're offering VA loans at Ho'opili somewhere around 4.99%, where most interest rates are closer to 6.25, 6.5. And that can save you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars every month or every year. So that is another huge bonus where you can possibly get, again, if you're VA, 0 down, low interest rate, and sometimes no money even out of pocket. The fourth pro when it comes to new construction is not only is the house all new, but the entire community is brand new. So you're gonna have new parks, fresh greenery. And in some areas like in Ho'opili, they've got new stores, new schools, you have new amenities. Everything is brand new and gives you that new car smell. Now those are just a handful of the pros when it comes to new construction. Okay, now let's jump into the cons when it comes to new construction. The first one is understanding that you are going to, unless you're at the end of the completion of the project, competing against the builder. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, when you bought this home, you most likely got maybe some seller's credit, you got maybe a lower interest rate, you got a brand new home. But keep in mind, when and if you want to sell that property, possibly in the near future, call it 3 to 5 years, you may be competing against that builder when you want to sell the property. Now let's dive a little bit deeper into that. So let's say that this project is a 20-year project and they're only 10 years in. They're building generally a lot of the same homes, single family homes, condos, townhomes, maybe some subtle differences. But when a buyer comes to go buy that property, maybe 3 years later, at that same time that you're gonna be selling your property, you're gonna be selling a similar product, but you can't offer the lower interest rate. Your home's gonna be a bit older than maybe that new home, and that developer is gonna be able to sell essentially that same home at the price that they want and potentially offer developer credit, like we discussed before with closing costs, as well as interest rates. So let's say if you were a buyer and you were presented this option where you can buy your property, which has been lived in for 3 to 5 years, is listed at $900,000, and then the developer who's selling essentially the same product for maybe a little bit more, call it $920, but they're able to offer a lower interest rate, seller's credit. These are all things you want to keep in mind. Now, with that being said, we generally see the prices go up in this area, so you still will have some equity. Maybe you have some sort of advantage. Maybe you can be a lower price than the actual developer, but just keep in mind, you're always going to be competing against the developer unless they're at the end of their building. That's going to be the biggest benefit to owning new construction, is that when you buy one of these properties, the developer's done building everything and there's nothing left available. You're not going to be competing against them anymore. And now you can sell on the open market with your competitors only being your neighbors, not brand new homes. Con number 2 is no negotiating the price. Now, again, they're usually going to say, hey, this is the price. We're going to offer credit. We're going to offer a lower interest rate, but the price is generally not negotiable. In resale, they'll have a list price, but you can negotiate that price depending on how many offers there are, what the seller is willing to do. You can actually negotiate that price. But with new construction, generally the price is the price. Con number 3 is ongoing construction. Because it's a development and they're developing and building out this community, they're most likely going to continue to build until they're done. So you want to keep in mind when you're looking at open flat lots, you've got a home right there. They might be building construction there for 3, 6, 12 months. And so when you're buying there, you want to know that you may be living in a construction site to a certain extent, and your view, which might be beautiful for now, may be blocked, or you may be hearing construction noise for, again, 3, 6, 12 months. Con number 4 would be the limited differentiality of the actual homes. Now, let's unpack that. A big word to say and a lot to understand there. So when you buy into, let's say, an older neighborhood, it's had time to kind of develop itself in its personality and the types of homes in that area. Some of those homes might be original, like you're in Kailua, 1940 single wall construction, or somebody came in, tore it down and built a whole brand new home. But there's a huge difference between those two, and you'll see a large appreciation happen in those neighborhoods where there's a big difference when a buyer comes in and goes, this is a nice home, but this is a 10,000 square foot lot and this one's 7,500 square foot lot. Or this home has double wall construction and this one has single wall construction. There's a lot of differences there, so you can see the appreciation actually jump up more in those neighborhoods where there's a big discrepancy between the types of homes in that specific neighborhood. In new development, they're all essentially the same, right? It's all going to be double wall. It's all going to be the same windows, same floor plan, similar finishes. There isn't much of a difference. So we don't see huge appreciations because we have a lot of the same models. Again, it's going to depend on the certain communities within that larger community, but there isn't going to be a huge difference compared to some of these older neighborhoods. So it just really depends on the market, but that's one thing you want to keep in mind is some people like the uniformity of the entire neighborhood, which is very nice, very clean, very Pleasantville vibes, but also know that your neighbor's house is probably the exact same floor plan as your home. The 5th con would be HOA rules. Now, usually people, especially on the mainland, they buy a single family home, they're like, there's no HOAs. Well, generally specifically where they're doing new developments, there's usually going to be some sort of shared amenity or some landscaping that's happening to keeping the place look really nice, tight and clean, or some sort of management or security. Now somebody has to pay for that. So you obviously have your HOA dues, but there's also going to be lots of rules and regulations. Like maybe you can't wash your car in your driveway, or you can only have so many cars parked on the street, or there's only certain renovations that you can do. You can't do an ADU, you can't expand out, you can't mess with the foundation, you can't use a certain paint color. There's going to be a lot more rules and regulations, which can be a pro because it keeps everything looking tight and clean, but also can be frustrating if you want to differentiate your property and do certain renovations. They may not allow you to do certain renovations. So again, just something you want to keep in mind. Okay, so those are the pros and cons for new construction. I love new construction, but again, you want to look at all different sides of it. Now let's look into resale, the pros and cons. Pro number 1, more neighborhoods to choose from. Because new construction, there's only a couple developers building in certain areas, you really only have a couple options. But when it comes to resale, essentially whatever you qualify for, you're open to the entire island. So you can pick different neighborhoods, micro neighborhoods, different parts of the island. It really opens you up to what your options are, because as we know in real estate, the common thing that everyone says, it's all about location, location, location. With new development, you're kind of locked in a box. That's the location. Those are the only places offering new developments. But with resale, it really opens up all your options. Pro number 2 is establish neighborhoods. Now, again, these new developments, all super shiny, generally do pretty well, but you can actually have more data on established neighborhoods that already have kind of gone through the growing pains of understanding whether that's a good neighborhood or a bad neighborhood, a good school district or a bad school district. A lot of these new developments, they're still kind of going through the growing pains, although it is all new, it all is very nice, and I'm sure that there's plenty of great neighbors there. There isn't a bunch of data to show what the appreciation has been over the last 5, 10, 15 years. If they're just new developments, maybe they're still going through those growing pains and they don't have enough data to show you what the appreciation has been in that area over a longer period of time. Pro number 3 would be more flexibility when it comes to the price. Now, depending on how many offers are actually on the property, if they've got 10 offers, maybe there's not much flexibility. You're probably going up way over asking. But if there's no offers on it, you may have flexibility on that price. Listed for $800,000, there's no offers, they've been on the market for 90 days. Well, maybe we can actually get it for $875, or maybe we can negotiate getting some credit from the seller. There's a lot more flexibility when it comes to the price and negotiating compared to new development, where this is the price and this is going to be the price until we decide we want to change it if it hasn't sold in 30, 60, or 90 days. Pro number 4 would be greater opportunity to add value. Now, I'm a big fan of buying fixer-uppers. I love sweat equity. I love getting my contractors in there, finding a property that's got a lot of opportunity where I can see how much the value of that property is when it's fixed up, buy it when it's not fixed up, fix it up, and make that sweat equity in between. Now, again, with new development, they're all brand new. There isn't much that you can do. It already has the quartz countertops. It already has a brand new cabinets. It already has dual pane windows. It's already been freshly painted and has AC units. You can't do that with new development, but with older homes, you do have an opportunity where you can push in equity immediately and not have to wait for time for that appreciation. And pro number 5 would be less construction. Now, this isn't always the case. I've had certain situations where my neighbors to my left, right, and in front of me are all renovating their home, so I do feel like I'm living on a construction site, but that's not a guarantee. That's just something you either get lucky with or don't get lucky with, but you're pretty much guaranteed that there's going to be construction happening around you in a new development, depending on where you're placed, because the developer is continuing to build until they complete the project. Okay, now let's get into the resale cons. Con number 1, older items. Now, what do I mean by that? The roof may be super old. The house might be on posts and piers, and you can see that there's some foundation moving. You may have a split AC unit that was installed 15 years ago and it's on the end of its life, or a water heater that's about to blow. These are all things that you can generally expect when it comes to buying resale properties, because they're older homes and they are not brand new. There's going to be possibly small and larger items you may need to repair, fix, or replace. Con number 2, no builder warranties. You're just buying it from the seller. They're out of there and you have no one to call other than your handyman or your contractor if you need to fix anything. There isn't a hotline that you can call like when you have a new development where they'll come out there within a year and fix something for you at no cost. Number 3 would be interest rates. Again, with new development, depending on where the market is, they may be offering, because they can, lower interest rates. But if you're buying a resale, you're essentially only working with the interest rates that is currently on the market. Like, again, we're seeing right now anywhere between 6 and 6.5. So unless you do some creative financing, which I made some videos going over this, 2-in-1 buy downs where you can actually get a lower interest rate using seller's credit. We won't get into that now. Generally, right off the bat, can't just get a lower interest rate unless you negotiate some kind of creative financing. So those are the pros and cons versus new development versus resale. I think they're both good options depending on who you are, what your goals are, and what you really want. So if you want to kind of discuss and unpack this a bit more, feel free to book a call with me. Again, there's a link down below where you can book a call directly with me or one of my teammates, or feel free to just call me directly. Got my phone number right here, or you can directly DM me on any of my social media platforms. So which one is better for you? It's hard for me to say what's better for you, and it's probably better for us to jump on a call and discuss. But with that being said, if I was to put everybody in a bucket, if you are looking for a home that you can move right in, you don't have to do anything at all, you like the warm and fuzzy of having that warranty attached, you know that the roof is brand new, you know that the AC is going to work, and literally there is nothing you have to do, and you're going to be there for a handful of time, I think new construction is a great option, especially in this market right now where interest rates are a little bit higher. You right off the bat are potentially able to get some credit without even having to negotiate, and you can move right into a beautiful home. But if you're willing or want maybe more flexibility when it comes to locations, school districts, you're okay maybe putting in a little bit of work or possibly a lot of bit of work, then resale is a great option for you, because you can negotiate the interest rate, again, through some creative financing, 2-in-1 buy downs, fixed buy downs. You sometimes can actually get credit to help with your closing costs. Nothing's guaranteed, but you can also negotiate that and still get the location you want. But generally when you're shopping for resale, depending on the price point, it's very difficult to sometimes get the quality home in the location you want. Usually it's a balance of the two, but that's for a whole different video. So if you want to dive deeper into this, feel free to give me a call. I got my phone number right here. You can directly DM me on any of my social media platforms, or what I highly suggest is you can book a call directly with me or one of my teammates in the link down below. You can find a day and time that works for you and in your time zone, and we'd be happy to unpack and explore what would be the best match and mix for you and your family. So that being said, I'm Patrick Longley with Team Roger That. Hope you guys have a beautiful day, and I'll talk to you soon. Aloha.